have a fun, informative video for you today. If you, like me, aren't super familiar with SQL, well, actually I am now, I didn't used to be. But when I was new to Cherwell, I really wasn't. When I started working with Cherwell, I didn't know anything about SQL databases and management and all that. And as I've moved through the process of learning more about Cherwell and learning more about SQL, well, at this point, I have my own instance of, multiple different Cherwell development environments, and I have a server that's hosting a couple of Cherwell databases in a SQL server. It is SQL Express, the free one, which is nice, but eh. Anyways, so I have a VPS that I've paid for that's out there on the internet, so that I don't have to worry about everything being local in my house, where the internet might go out or the power might go out for 8 hours during a hurricane, all that fun stuff. And the server that I have, it actually is one of my Cherwell servers, one of my Cherwell application servers, but it only has 4 gigabytes of RAM because when I bought the server, I was somewhat cheap about it. And it's been a nice server. It only cost me like $10 a month, which is nice, but it only has 4 gigs of RAM. And occasionally, what I'll run into is my SQL server will run out of memory and my databases will all become unavailable. And so if you notice here, they all say recovery pending, and if I try logging into my Cherwell server, God, I love this launcher. My favorite launcher ever. If I try logging into my Cherwell server, I'll actually get an error message from Cherwell saying that the server is not available. It might take a moment. There we go. Cannot connect to the server, service could not be activated. So what that means, essentially what you can calculate that as is very likely the service cannot reach your database, and thus the service cannot be activated. If you look in IIS on this server, it's running perfectly fine. So for me, my indication there, because I've run into this a couple times, is I need to look at my databases. And I'm trying to log into Cherwell 9.7, and my demo 9.7 database is in recovery pending status. Now, if you've never run into this issue before, you might think, oh, well, I just take the database offline and put it back online, and that should resolve my issue, right? But you'll get an error message when you do that, saying that the database actually can't be opened due to inaccessible files or insufficient memory or disk space. Now, my server has enough disk space, and even if I made more memory available to it, like if I started closing a bunch of stuff, this would still probably happen. And so what I need to do, what I have found is an easy workaround for this, is to just open up SQL Configuration Manager and restart the service. If you restart the service, most times the databases will get out of recovery status and they'll go back to normal. Something that exacerbates this a bit is my dev environment. Whenever I sign in, it doesn't actually sign out my users all the time, and so they just kind of sit here and occupy a bunch of memory, and the more I sign in via RDP, the more likely it is that they're going to get disconnected. But for me, if I go in here and I just restart these, very likely I'll go and refresh SQL Server and they'll just magically be activated. They won't be in recovery status, they'll just be normal, and I'll be able to sign in and get back to the video that I was going to record. Alright, so that's done. And now I'm going to go into SQL Server. And if I refresh my list of databases, ta-da, no recovery status, and I should now be able to log into Cherwell. Look at that. Connecting, no pop-up, no whammy. And at some point we should be able to log in. It may take a moment because we did restart the SQL Server database, so the IIS server has to, reinitialize. But we've seen our login window disappear, and we should log in here in a moment. Ta-da! So now we're logged in, and so I just wanted to do this quick little YouTube video. I can go ahead and sign out here, demonstrating, if you run into this issue where you have databases that are just in recovery, what you want to do at that point is you want Well, the immediate thing you want to do is restart the SQL service. And most of the time, unless you have some kind of corruption, those databases will just go back online. If they don't, you have to look into repairing that database. But separate from that, if this is happening a lot for you, like it is for me, you need to look at what is the root cause of this and how can you permanently address it. So for me, I'm looking into, can I just have a Windows task scheduler task restart that service every day and then I don't have to worry about it? Or should I upgrade that server with more memory, which is very likely what's going to happen? Should I migrate one of those databases off of there since the demo 9.7 database doesn't need to be highly available out on the internet? That one's just for content that I'm going to be doing about version 9.7. And I have a server at home, it's just not as, it won't always be available, if that makes sense. But yeah, let us know if that was useful and keep watching the channel. Thanks.